My first day at the new company, and within minutes, I nearly pulled down the big boss's pants. The truly mortifying part? This wasn't the first time I'd suffered such catastrophic social death in front of him. As expected, the very next second, the big boss casually lifted his eyebrows, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "How was the feel?" he asked. Speaking of feel, that belt buckle had a top-notch metallic texture. The 3 seconds between my awkward stumble, my frantic lunge to grab onto something stable, anything, and my gaze finally lifting to meet his eyes became the peak of my social death experiences to date. My hands were still tightly clasped around a flattened, distinctive V-shaped metal buckle. And the owner of that belt? None other than Adrian Vance, the big boss, the CEO of this massive tech firm. Just moments before, rushing into the elevator, afraid of being late on my very first day, I'd lost my balance. Grabbing his belt had been a desperate, instinctive move to stay upright. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Vance. I didn't do it on purpose." Surrounded by colleagues whose faces ranged from horrified to outright entertained, I could only lower my head and stammer apologies. The elevator cabin, though not huge, suddenly felt incredibly cramped. The people around Mr. Vance seemed to press themselves into the corners, leaving just him and me in the center, locked in this absurd tableau. The embarrassment was excruciating. "Mr. Vance, I genuinely didn't mean to. I just needed something to grab onto for balance. I thought it was a bag strap or something." I was rambling now, my words tumbling out in a frantic, nonsensical stream. But a man like the big boss handles crises with remarkable composure. He instantly offered forgiveness and, more importantly, the only viable solution to the current predicament. "You might want to let go first," he said, his voice calm, a hint of amusement lurking beneath the surface. Oh. It dawned on me then. In my panic and subsequent flustered apologies, I hadn't just grabbed his belt. I had clenched it so tightly that my fingers were now tucked under the edge of his crisp dress shirt. And yes, it would be a lie to say I hadn't felt the firm, sculpted muscles of his abdomen beneath the fabric. In that moment, only one thought occupied my mind. Let the earth swallow me whole. There's no way I can ever show my face here again. The advantage of working at an internet company is the speed at which information travels. Before noon, my scandalous behavior had spread like wildfire through every department. "Did you hear about the new intern? So bold, grabbing Mr. Vance's belt like that. She's totally trying the green tea act. Mr. Vance told her to let go, and she just kept whimpering and wouldn't release him. Rumor has it Mr. Vance's legal team is drafting documents to sue her for sexual harassment." Wild rumors and malicious speculation swirled around me, accompanied by swiftly dug-up personal details, propelling me to the top of the internal company hot search. Wherever I went, the restroom, my desk, I felt eyes on me, colleagues, trying to get a discreet look at the infamous newcomer. Facing this sudden unwanted notoriety, I had one thought I desperately wanted to share. I'm innocent. Their theories weren't just wrong. They were wildly, laughably inaccurate. But one thing I was absolutely certain of: Mr. Vance would never sue me, because he was the one who recruited me. Our big boss, CEO Adrian Vance, was my university senpai and, for a brief, unforgettable period, my philosophy lecturer. And yes, this wasn't the first time I had suffered catastrophic social death in his presence. It's a long story. Back in the day, I was a clueless freshman. Adrian Vance was a graduate student then, occasionally helping out with teaching. Conveniently, his supervising professor, affectionately nicknamed Professor Mallory, known for her difficult-to-pass philosophy course, went on maternity leave to have her second child. Adrian took over teaching for 4 months, and I, thanks to my overly enthusiastic roommate, somehow became the class representative. The moment he walked into the classroom, every single girl was stunned. Even more so when they realized I was Professor Vance's closest contact. Their collective glares promised swift, painful retribution. I just wanted to lay low, survive the semester, and disappear back into anonymity. Fate, however, had other plans. My first major social death was waiting in the wings. It happened during an open lecture, Adrian's very last class. He was scheduled to retire gracefully in an hour, a beloved temporary professor. Instead, thanks to the wrong USB drive I handed him, he became an unwitting participant in a live public screening of something far less academic. The pure, innocent English dialogue. The sight of 2 figures, one dark, one light, meeting in a state of mutual undress. A full-blown adult film flickered onto the massive projection screen. The entire lecture hall fell silent, a collective gasp swallowed by shock. Where the hell did this come from? My mind screamed. My reputation. My dignity. My face burned crimson. I wanted to vanish. Just as I thought I might spontaneously combust from embarrassment, Adrian calmly walked to the projector, pulled out the USB drive, his face impassive. Wrong USB, he announced, his voice steady. The correct one is in the third drawer from the left in my office. Go get it. Adrian had defused the bomb, covering for me completely, but I still wanted to die. Afterward, the university discreetly handled it as an unfortunate technical error. I was a wreck, mortified and terrified of potential disciplinary action. I couldn't bring myself to answer Adrian's calls. It wasn't until he found me by the lake, hiding away, that I finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. I apologized profusely, stammering explanations. Adrian didn't seem to mind my snot and tears, letting me effectively ruin his 6,000 yuan Burberry shirt. I barely remember anything else he said, but one sentence is etched into my memory. Alara, I know what kind of person you are. This incident, bizarre as it was, created a unique teacher-student bond between us. But soon after, Adrian passed his Princeton interview and left for further studies in the U.S. I thought that was the end of our connection. To my surprise, we ran into each other again at the university's 10-year anniversary celebration during my senior year. I was feeling particularly lost then, riddled with anxiety after failing my graduate school entrance exams. Nothing held any appeal. Professor Vance, the one who took the fall for you, is back. Bethany, my best friend, told me, her eyes sparkling with gossip. Aren't you going to see him? The USB incident had, unfortunately, made me somewhat notorious on campus. I'd never understood how the wrong file ended up on that drive. It wasn't until I became good friends with Bethany that I learned the truth. Turned out Veronica Yuan, the department beauty, who had a long-standing crush on Adrian, was behind it. She was always buying the same clothes as Professor Vance and accidentally letting people see, trying to create rumors that they were dating, Bethany explained, leaning in conspiratorially. Bethany herself had briefly been one of Veronica's besties, until she realized Veronica was using her. It was a classic mean girl move. A petty act of revenge against me for being the class rep, for being close to Adrian. Instead, it forged a friendship between me and Bethany, born out of shared exasperation with Veronica. Bethany was clearly enjoying recounting the past drama, but I was too preoccupied. My overconfidence in getting a guaranteed spot for grad school had cost me the opportunity to even take the entrance exam seriously. Now my classmates were either happily employed or waiting for grad school results while I was adrift, uncertain of my path. The more I felt like a failure, the less I wanted to face someone important to me, someone who had seen me in a moment of absolute humiliation. Adrian had left an impression, not a life-altering one, but significant enough that I didn't want him to see me like this. I declined Bethany's invitation to meet him. That evening, I received a job recruitment link from Adrian. Give it a try, his message read. I think you'd be a good fit. Looking at Bethany's mischievous, hopeful expression, I, against my better judgment, clicked the link. So you see? Was I wronged or not? After the disastrous first day and the ensuing office drama, I was beside myself. I called Bethany, recounting the events. She, true to form, was no help at all, dissolving into peals of laughter. Alara, you clearly still have a thing for your Professor Vance. Just go for it. That kind of connection looks like fate working overtime. If I didn't know she was in another city, I would have gone straight to her place to yell at her. But I had to admit I did have trouble sleeping that night. Adrian Vance carried an undeniable aura, a magnetic presence that any normal woman would find hard to ignore. He was undeniably charismatic, successful, and yes, handsome. But I wasn't delusional. The better he was, the fiercer the competition. Women who had their eyes on him probably lined up from here to the other side of the city. What did I have to offer that could possibly keep someone like him? I rubbed my temples. Alara, stop thinking like this. If you actually got together with him, you'd just become a walking embodiment of jealousy. My scandalous affair with the big boss gradually faded from the office buzz, becoming yesterday's news, primarily because there was no follow-up. But that didn't stop others with ulterior motives from trying to replicate my supposed strategy, attempting Their own bad boy boss falls for me dramas. Unfortunately for them, their attempts either backfired spectacularly or simply went unnoticed. Watching these hopeful snake spirits approach him, then retreat defeated, my brow furrowed in annoyance. Finally, the workday ended. I deliberately waited for the rush hour crowd to thin out, choosing a less used elevator to make my escape. Alara, wait. Just as the elevator doors were closing, I saw Adrian Vance. For some inexplicable reason, my hand instinctively reached for the closed door button. This was the first time I'd used this particular elevator today. Either I hit the wrong button or missed a step, but the doors remained stubbornly open. Adrian's long legs covered the distance quickly, and he stepped inside. With a casual touch on an invisible panel, the doors finally sealed shut. "This is my private elevator," he explained, his voice smooth. "It's fingerprint activated." "Right. Okay, from now on, call me the Queen of Social Death." "Got it, Professor Vance." The old honorific slipped out naturally. "That's a name I haven't heard in a while," he replied. He was so tall I could only hear the smile in his voice, not see his expression. Was he annoyed? Or just amused? The private elevator was truly impressive, with holographic displays showing the city skyline instead of walls. As I was staring fascinated, Adrian spoke again. "Are you seeing anyone?" A giant question mark appeared over my head. Was this a check for office romances? I was about to deny everything and express my unwavering dedication to work when his next question came. "That study material on the USB drive back then. Who downloaded that?" My confusion lasted only a second before his meaning clicked. Memories flooded back, and my face instantly turned the color of a ripe tomato. I waved my hands frantically, my body trembling with mortification. "Professor Vance, that USB wasn't mine." "It really wasn't." Adrian remained completely unperturbed. He even lightly patted my shoulder. I know. He knew, but my face felt like it was going to explode. At the same time, I was silently cursing the company for being so wealthy that they built an 80-story building. When will this elevator ride end? "Oh, right." Adrian's gaze met mine, a smile playing on his lips, hinting at something more. "That USB drive. I still have it. When would you like to come pick it up? Please. Let the earth swallow me. Now." Art. Adrian Vance, the master of conversation revival. Just put me out of my misery already. His completely serious expression made my flustered, blushing state seem even more ridiculous. Damn it, he must have misunderstood. In his eyes, I was probably a freshly minted college graduate, wide-eyed at the temptations of the adult world, secretly harboring desires to peek into the unknown late at night. A chill ran down my spine. I declined Adrian's offer of a ride, heading numbly towards the subway station. That night I fell asleep early. But in the middle of the night, the image of the black and white devils from the USB video slowly formed. In my mind, the blurry faces sharpened, becoming clearer. Wait. The man looked a little pale and the woman had black hair. And hold on. Their faces looked familiar somehow. Weren't they Adrian Vance and Alara Sue? Huh. But I'm Alara Sue, aren't I? I jolted awake, startled by the thought. Alara, snap out of it. Weekend. Finally a chance to breathe. I ate breakfast and pondered my recent behavior. I understood the logic behind my embarrassment, but it was like following a TV romance. Who could remain immune to someone who perfectly fit your ultimate fantasy? Not only had I acknowledged his appeal, I had even mentally done things with him in my dreams. Alara, he gave you a great job, pays on time, and doesn't make you work 996. Be grateful. Not only are you not killing yourself at work, you're fantasizing about stripping him naked. Are you even a person? Tried to scold myself using the principles I learned in philosophy class, determined not to let the decadent desires of capitalism corrupt me, a supposed successor to the communist cause. Just as I was deep in this internal struggle, a message popped up in the workgroup chat. Overtime. The usual eager beavers were suspiciously silent, leaving Director Chun to shower the group with red envelopes. Seeing the money, I clicked on every single one without hesitation. I would go work overtime. I would atone. I would repay the innocent Adrian Vance, whom I had so shamelessly defiled in my thoughts and dreams. Arriving at the office with newfound determination, I found the entire floor empty. I turned on my computer and metaphorically started counting my prayer beads. Every small file I finished was like chanting a sutra. I was repenting and getting paid for it. I truly was the happiest worker in the world. Alara, I'm really impressed with you. I'll make sure to highlight your contributions at the quarterly meeting. Time flew by. After sending the completed files, I could practically see Director Chan, his bald head gleaming, wiping away tears of gratitude through the screen. Repentance complete, I shut down my laptop. Stepping out of the empty office, I walked down the long, silent corridor, a sense of solitude washing over me. To be honest, it felt a little eerie. I cleared my throat a few times, trying to bolster my courage. Just then, having trouble with your throat? It was Adrian Vance's voice. Deep, resonant, absolutely electrifying. For a split second, I thought I was still dreaming. I turned back startled. There he was, impeccably dressed in a suit. Although he looked like a modern business mogul, I couldn't shake the image of his younger self, standing humbly in the university classroom. Seeing my surprised look, Adrian smiled slightly. Working on a weekend? Student Sue. His voice sang Student Sue with that soft, teasing tone, sent shivers down my spine. It was going to be the end of me. He must know. He must know I was just thinking about him as a student. My face flamed again. All that internal chanting had been for nothing. Yes. It's necessary. I kept my head down, unable to meet his gaze. We were approaching his private elevator. Remembering the soul-bearing conversation from last time, I suddenly felt the urge to flee. Mr. Vance, I'm on a diet. Lately, I think I'll take the stairs. I immediately headed towards the stairwell. But before I got far, Adrian's hand clamped onto my shoulder, gently but firmly guiding me towards his exclusive elevator. Ride the elevator with me. Okay. His elevator didn't stop on the ground floor, going straight to the underground parking garage. A whole row of Adrian's beloved steeds was lined up before the elevator doors. Seeing that dazzling display of luxury cars for the first time had given me a visceral understanding of what it meant to be truly wealthy. It's late. I'll take you home. Adrian said it with a straight face, but the hand resting on my shoulder had an unmistakable possessive weight. Oh well. I was already accepting a favor from my boss. The thought of an expensive weekend taxi ride swayed my pragmatic, small citizen heart. Sitting in the CEO's car, I felt none of the thrilling rush that female leads experience in novels. I just felt confused. Even with my limited dating experience, I understood the boundaries between men and women. If Adrian had treated me purely as a former student or a junior colleague, it would have been easier. But beyond that single teasing Professor Vance, his every word and action suggested something far more complicated, something that stirred up uncomfortable feelings. A sudden surge of irritation made me impulsively roll down the window. If you're hot, I can turn on the AC, he said, his voice gentle. Autumn wind can be chilling, and you were coughing earlier. You should be careful. He controlled the window again. The car seat beneath me slowly warmed up. The faint, luxurious scent of the Ferrari's custom diffuser filled the air, intensifying the ambiguous tension between us. A barrage of cautious dating advice and warnings flashed through my mind, but I was too tired to process them. Just for this moment, this little taste of luxury, let me drown in it. The car deliberately slowed, but inevitably, we arrived at my apartment building. He looked at me, slumped slightly in the passenger seat, his eyes deep and unreadable in the dim light. Thank you, Mr. Vance, I said, reaching for the door handle, but Adrian caught my arm. My wrist felt scorching under his touch, and I instantly became flustered and nervous. You don't need to take the stairs anymore, he said. Softly. You're not heavy. His every word seemed designed to hit my emotional weak spots. Please stop talking, I thought desperately. Apparently, Adrian heard my thoughts. He watched me get out, then actually drove away. In the night air, even in the darkness, his red Ferrari had a striking presence. Just like my complicated feelings, and Adrian's undeniably inappropriate attentiveness. Impossible to hide. During the week-long National Day holiday, many of us were still working diligently, chasing year-end bonuses. Even the usually laid-back Director Chun was pushing us. These clients, 2 people per group, you must maintain contact. The savvier colleagues quickly paired up, snatching the easier clients, leaving me isolated. Only one difficult client remained. Mr. Huang, known for his enthusiastic pursuit of health and wellness establishments after business dinners. Luckily, 2 male colleagues hadn't paired up yet. I expected them to volunteer, but one suddenly announced a last-minute business trip, and the other claimed he was trying to conceive and couldn't drink any alcohol. The most absurd part was that Director Chun insisted the 3 of us form a group anyway. On the night of the dinner, the colleague who claimed to be on a business trip was predictably absent. I really can't drink. The trying to conceive colleague demurred, looking so delicate you'd think he was the one carrying the baby. From the moment the dinner started, Mr. Huang's oily gaze was fixed on me. I endured the overwhelming nausea, telling myself this was a test, a trial by fire. If you asked which level of hell this was, I'd say I'd plummeted straight to the lowest abyss the moment I saw his greasy smile. After the meal, the trying to conceive colleague vanished faster than anyone. Left alone, I quickly found a reliable designated driver service to escort Mr. Huang to his preferred after-hours activities. Miss Su, are you really a university student? Your face is even softer than my elementary school daughter's. Mr. Huang, reeking of alcohol, his hand waving erratically in the air, tried to grab me. Fortunately, I'd taken some Muay Thai classes in middle school. I managed to duck and weave, avoiding his grasp. The designated driver had pulled up the car. But just as I thought I was free, Mr. Huang grabbed my arm again. How about you spend the night with me? He slurred, his voice slithery. I'll give you all my projects next year, okay? The stench of stale alcohol, the leering expression, the disgusting words. For a moment I couldn't tell which was more repulsive. Just as anger flared, a tall figure appeared. As if from nowhere, swiftly prying Mr. Huang's hand from my arm. With a powerful kick he shoved the drunken man into the waiting car, then used his knee to slam the door shut. Take him straight home, Adrian ordered the driver, his voice like ice. If he won't go home, drop him off outside the police station. He turned to me, his face a mask of controlled fury. He seemed to be summoning every ounce of his cultivated composure to rein in his raw, protective rage. Then, Adrian looked at me, his expression softening with genuine concern. Alara, he asked, his voice gentle now, are you all right? His eyes, dark and deep, reflected only my image. In that instant, all my caution, my carefully constructed walls of logic, my self-awareness crumbled. I was utterly, completely, and irrevocably gone. Late that night, a new company-wide directive was issued. The content wasn't extraordinary, just a ban on excessive drinking and forcing alcohol at company events. What was noteworthy was that it came directly from the recently appointed big boss Adrian Vance. Many employees who had suffered under the previous culture enthusiastically supported it. Adrian had clearly won over hearts and minds again. I took a screenshot of his message and posted it as a private thought, visible only to myself. This is the second time he saved me. No more hiding. No more pretending. I was completely smitten. Even if he were just an ordinary man, appearing in my time of need, protecting me, taking responsibility, I wouldn't have been able to help but fall for him. And this was the incredibly accomplished, charismatic Adrian Vance. Human nature is fragile and also a little vain. As for what happens next, honestly, I didn't dare think about it. I knew the vast gap between us, of course, but I also found myself harboring unrealistic hopes. To put it shamefully, even if Adrian intended to be a jerk and just toy with me, I might have been willing. Unexpectedly, Adrian left for a business trip after the holiday. Hey, are you going to the drama club reunion? Bethany called me during lunch. I was a bit socially awkward after the USB incident in college, so I'd only joined one club, the drama club. I'd even gotten my first chance at a lead role there and made some like-minded friends. The only downside was that my one lead role was snatched away by Veronica Yuan. I heard Veronica's going, Bethany said. If you don't want to go, I won't either. Veronica, the woman who stole my lead role and orchestrated the yellow USB incident, the legendary department beauty. Both times something had gone spectacularly wrong. Adrian had been there to help. This time he definitely wouldn't be. But I didn't want to hide anymore. I had to face it eventually. As long as she didn't cause trouble, I wouldn't bring up the past. The reunion was lively. It had only been 4 or 5 months since graduation, and no one was completely estranged yet. Until Veronica showed up, bringing someone I definitely recognized. Well, my cousin told me you've been chasing Mr. Vance since college. Looks like it was true. Valerie Yuan, the sales colleague I'd run into at the company, said, standing beside Veronica. You have got to be kidding me. Just my luck. Veronica, who had intentionally swapped my USB drive to get back at me for being Adrian's class rep, causing my first social death. And her dear cousin, Valerie, who'd gleefully gossiped about me after my second social death. This family certainly stuck together, united in their capacity for malice. I just realized your family has some powerful genes, I said, digging the knife in. Veronica and Valerie looked stunned. I smiled sweetly. Both of you have such long tongues. I had decided before coming that if Veronica didn't stir things up, I wouldn't mention the past. But if she did, I would make sure she regretted it. The atmosphere became instantly tense. Just then, hope I'm not too late. It was Adrian Vance. I vaguely remembered he was supposed to be on a business trip. Why was he here? Mr. Vance. Before I could finish, Adrian smiled slightly at everyone. A devastatingly handsome, charismatic smile, then turned to me. I heard you had a club reunion today, he said, his voice carrying across the room. Came specifically to pick you up. You left something at my place. What? What did I leave at his place? I'd never even been to his place. But then a familiar memory surfaced. Oh God. No. Could it be that? Terrified of a third social death, I pulled Adrian aside, asking him quietly, cautiously, my worst fear. Adrian confirmed it with a casual nod. Yes. It's your USB drive. Right. Please. Let the third social death come swiftly. See? I told you. Professor Vance and Alara must be a couple. So, is it a teacher-student romance or just seniors-juniors? Definitely teacher-student. They weren't even in the same major. OMG, I'm so happy. My ship has sailed. I have so much inspiration for my fanfiction now. From the moment Adrian and I appeared together, the whispers and blatant discussions were unavoidable. Even Veronica, usually the center of attention, was completely eclipsed. Valerie didn't dare meet Adrian's eyes. But that didn't mean Adrian would let her off the hook. He gave Valerie a cool glance. The company doesn't keep people who spread malicious gossip, he announced, his voice calm but clear. Quarterly bonus cancelled. His words solidified everyone's belief in our relationship. This was Adrian Vance, the protective partner, in action. Watching the Yuan cousins flee the scene, my heart was pounding. Adrian had protected me again. Delayed by traffic, Bethany turned out to be the last person to arrive and witness the unfolding drama. When did you two fall in love? You didn't tell me anything. She was wide-eyed, thrilled, practically bouncing with excitement. We'll treat you to dinner soon, Adrian said, his arm gently around my waist, making a formal promise to Bethany. Since entering the room, Adrian hadn't left my side, politely but firmly keeping everyone at a distance. During the dinner, Adrian took a phone call, finally giving me a moment to talk to Bethany privately. Spill it, or I'll use extreme measures, Bethany threatened, her eyes practically vibrating with curiosity. It was the USB drive that brought us together, I said, giving her a vague but technically true answer. Amazing. Professor Vance always had that stoic, reserved vibe. I knew he wouldn't disappoint. Bethany slapped my shoulder excitedly, the force of it nearly sending my dinner back up. So what's he like? She asked, her eyes full of suggestive meaning, practically begging for explicit details. Is it exciting? He's very good at learning, I said, keeping my answer deliberately ambiguous. He's very good at improving himself. This much was absolutely true. Adrian had the capacity for rapid learning. Though at this point my knowledge was purely theoretical, I hadn't had a chance for practical application yet. Oh really? A male voice sounded right above me. Adrian's large hand landed on my shoulder. Bethany, her face a picture of, I totally get it, carry on, gave us a knowing look and casually drifted away. Damn it. I really was the queen of social death. The undisputed ruler. On the drive home, my face felt like a ripe tomato burning hot. Why is your face redder than my car? Adrian teased. Actually, the content on your USB drive is a bit outdated. There are many new techniques now. He paused, his voice dropping lower. So, do we start with the basics or jump straight to advanced techniques? His eyes met mine. There was no mistaking the desire, the playful suggestion, the sheer smolder in his gaze. My learning ability isn't the only thing that's good. My practical skills are even better. When we arrived at my building, Adrian locked the car doors, preventing me from getting out. The city planning here is changing soon, he said, his tone casual. It's going to get less populated, maybe not safe at night. My place is being renovated anyway. Can I stay here for a bit? What kind of logic was that? A man like Adrian Vance, who probably owned multiple properties, claiming he had nowhere else to go? I knew he had several large villas. Mr. Vance, my place is like a dilapidated shack. It can't house a golden Buddha like you. Besides. Okay, fine. My excuse was terrible. Adrian cut me off, dispensing with the pretense. He looked at me directly, his expression soft, disarming. I just wanted to pursue you. It's my first time though, so I guess I'm a little impatient. His gaze was sincere, almost vulnerable. That profound sincerity. It was irresistible. He was actually apologizing for being too eager? Okay, fine. With a straightforward approach like that, he won instantly. Anyone who said Adrian Vance wasn't a man of action was either blind or lying. The moment I nodded, he opened the trunk and produced a duffel bag containing toiletries and clothes. He'd even pre-planned the parking for his car. With an old fox like this, how could I possibly escape? We quickly became inseparable, but I did lay down some ground rules. You can drive me to the subway station, but I can't go to work with you. Adrian looked slightly unhappy but agreed. To be honest, the thrill of the secret romance was exhilarating. My boss, aloof and commanding during the day, was curled up in my small apartment at night, fighting me for the blanket. It felt like something out of a cheesy wish-fulfillment novel. And so, Adrian and I embarked on our discreet, low-key relationship. If before I had only felt admiration and a tentative liking, now the big boss made me utterly intoxicated. He was a gentleman, elegant, attentive, and of course, devastatingly handsome and wealthy. However, a meeting about a month later brought a pang of jealousy. In the conference room, a beautiful woman, dressed expensively, with a perfect figure, was smiling and subtly flirting with Adrian. Perhaps not exactly flirting, as Adrian's expression remained composed throughout. Only the woman was blossoming. Like a flower. I heard that's the daughter of the CEO of Titan Group. Valerie Yuan whispered conspiratorially, her eyes glinting with anticipation, eager to see drama unfold. I forced myself to remain calm. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. Some people, I said, my voice clear, directed towards Valerie but meant for everyone, don't learn their lesson even after losing their quarterly bonus. Now they can't even close deals themselves and have to rely on their boss to step in personally. Since Adrian's directive on client entertainment, Valerie, who had relied heavily on such tactics, had hit rock bottom in sales performance. She was undoubtedly furious. Yes, there was a difference between real ability and relying on favors. Seeing Valerie storm off defeated didn't make me feel better for long. That evening, I deliberately left work earlier than usual. Where are you? A WeChat message from Adrian popped up as I entered the subway station. Feeling stubborn, I turned on airplane mode. But a few minutes later, I couldn't resist checking. Ugh, the annoying anxieties of being in love. Below his voice message was a missed voice call. Without internet, I had missed it. And he didn't call again after that. My mood sank heavier than lead. But the situation turned around the moment I exited the subway station. You turn off your phone when you're upset? Aren't you afraid I'll worry? Damn it. Adrian's gentle tone had a magical quality. My stubbornness melted away instantly. On the subway ride back with him, he gave up his seat for an elderly woman standing in front of me. The woman smiled kindly, praising my boyfriend for being such a good young man. Yes, I readily agreed, beaming. I like him because he's kind-hearted. I conveniently omitted the part about liking him for being handsome and rich. The subway ride was short. He took my hand and led me out onto the bustling street, lined with shops. Adrian chose a newly renovated, trendy restaurant. Is this okay? He asked, his voice soft. I didn't pay much attention to the strange, familiar logo above the entrance, assuming he just wanted to have dinner with me. It wasn't until we were seated that I realized we were in a famous, upscale Hunan restaurant owned by the Titan Group. This is where we'll have our first official dinner together as a couple, Adrian said, handing me the menu, his smile mysterious. Sure enough, as soon as we ordered, I ran into someone else I knew. There she was, dressed in a server's uniform, the heiress looking utterly resentful. But you said you were interning at your dad's place, Adrian told her, his voice even and pleasant, completely unbothered by her glare. I brought my girlfriend here specifically to support your business. Introducing me so openly, so calmly. Anyone witnessing it would be completely disarmed. The heiress was likely just putting on a show. Otherwise, why wouldn't she tell us about the promotional activities like the kissing photo event happening right at the next table? Adrian noticed it too. He called the server over again and listened carefully to the promotion details. No need for a discount, he said, his voice firm. But please make sure our kissing photo is placed in the most prominent spot. The server, having received a generous tip, showered us with compliments. Don't worry, she said, practically glowing. Your looks are so striking. You'll be a living advertisement. In the end, I ate dinner and Adrian also ate dinner. And yes, there was a thorough positional instruction session back at my place later. Having a boyfriend like this was absolutely worth 1,000 moments of social death. Good times are always fleeting, especially when your life feels like a wish fulfillment novel. Inevitably, I reached the story's climax. The boss, his mom, making her grand entrance. Adrian's mother was a strong-willed woman, having married his father. Early on, despite her family's opposition, she came from old money, a true socialite, and had high standards for a daughter-in-law. Unfortunately for her, the heel of her designer shoe had barely crossed my threshold when Adrian arrived, as if by magic. Mom, perfect timing. I was just about to come find you anyway. Being from a prominent family, Mrs. Vance suggested they talk privately, but Adrian refused. There's nothing. Really, he said casually. I've handled most of the family business here. It's time to start something of my own. He paused. I've already found a professional manager. He started getting familiar with the business in September, and should be able to take over by year-end. Adrian's meaning was clear, double-edged. Mrs. Vance wasn't foolish. Adrian stood up, creating a symbolic barrier between me and his mother. An impasse. It was clear Adrian's mind was made up. Reluctantly, Mrs. Vance sighed and nodded. Have it your way, she said, picking up her expensive handbag. She looked at me from head to toe, a assessing gaze. My son is grown. He's not mine to command anymore. After Mrs. Vance left, Adrian finally revealed the plans he'd kept hidden for months. Ever since returning to the country and meeting me again, he had made a decision. He knew I still cared about getting a master's degree, and he understood my family's subtle pressure, my mother's health and desire for me to settle down. He had quietly arranged his succession in the family business and built up his own company. As for the renovation, that was true. He had bought a house near my target university, a house just for me. He had arranged everything, a tutor for my entrance exams, a housekeeper, and his own presence. From now on, we'll spend the money your husband earns himself, Adrian said, smiling, gently touching my nose. We can buy whatever you want. With someone like this, what reason was there to hesitate? All I could do now was study harder than ever to repay my professor Adrian's efforts. I needed to conquer both the academic master's degree and the physical doctorate in body research. I had to catch up quickly. After all, they say diligence makes up for lack of talent. How about we start tonight? Right now? Months later, on the day I received my acceptance letter, it was raining heavily outside. The first person I wanted to tell was Adrian. Ning, I'm still in a meeting, he said over the phone, his voice slightly regretful. Not sure if I can get back today to celebrate with you. After starting his own venture, Adrian's travel schedule had become just as packed. And I, after months of dedicated studying, had finally succeeded. It's okay, I said. As a supportive partner, I had to understand. Don't worry, I'll make it up to you with a big gift when I get back, he said, his voice softening. I could almost feel his kiss through the phone before he hung up. Back at my place, the housekeeper had prepared dinner and was about to leave. I made pudding earlier. It'll be ready to eat in 3 hours. It's in the fridge. That feeling of being cared for, of knowing someone had taken care of things for you. It was incredible. That evening, holding a bowl of sweet pudding, I headed towards the basement home theater. As I walked, Adrian's words from years ago in the classroom suddenly echoed in my mind. The third drawer from the left in my office. A thought sparked. I hurried to Adrian's study on the second floor. Third drawer from the left. Sure enough, I found it there. The catalyst for our connection. Adrian often joked about watching it with me, but I had always firmly refused. I was, after all, a refined proper lady, a hypocrite who couldn't let him see my true self. But he wasn't home tonight. Perfect timing. I had been incredibly curious about the content after a year of Adrian's practical lessons. Might as well take the opportunity to catch up on my homework. Returning to the basement theater, I eagerly plugged in the USB drive. The images flickered onto the nearly 300-inch screen. Frame after frame, the movements seemed both familiar and increasingly complex. I watched utterly mesmerized. How do they do that? It's not physically possible. My newly minted graduate brain was hitting a technical wall. But I hadn't expected my research topic to suddenly appear in person. A man needs to be a little flexible in the waist, a voice said from behind me. That was the crucial detail I missed. Understanding dawned on me, but the next second I froze. No way. It's pouring outside. Did he take a special flight back? In my panic, I tried to hit pause but accidentally hit the dual audio button. The sounds, male and female, rose and fell, filling the theater with sudden intense heat. Adrian had loosened his tie and was walking towards me step by step. Just as I thought about running, he demonstrated his remarkable agility and, yes, his evidently flexible waist. He vaulted over the sofa, grabbed me and gently pinned me onto the soft rug. "Baby," he murmured, his eyes dark and full of desire. "Practice is the sole criterion for testing truth, isn't it?" That night, the heavy rain outside continued until dawn, and in the basement of my house, Adrian and I were covered in sweat. Professor Adrian, upholding the virtue of once a teacher, always a teacher, provided me with the most comprehensive guidance from body to soul. Besides the pleasant ache in my legs, I couldn't find any downsides. Learning while living wasn't so bad after all.